All right, well, let's talk about the big pressing news that came down this week. We went a long time without a Speaker of the House, and now we have one. So, kind of walk us through your vantage point of the saga, and on the other side of the vote, how do you feel about it?
Well, I think it's very unfortunate that we've had to suffer through the chaos and the dysfunction of the House, given the fact that we are faced with so many crises, both domestically and internationally. Uh, we are now without a government funding bill. We're operating under continuing resolution. Our funding expired September 30th, and the leadership of the House has been unable to get us through that funding process. And of course, being without a speaker exacerbated that problem because, of course, we weren't able to fund the government except through the continuing resolution. We've got challenges internationally with Israel and the Gaza conflict there, as well as funding Ukraine, a big ally in Europe that has been under attack for now over a year by Russia. And so our House has been paralyzed by the civil war on the Republican side of the aisle, making us dysfunctional and not able to address these concerns. We've got a farm bill that has expired. And of course, agriculture is the #1 industry in the state of Georgia. And of course, defense is the #2 industry in the state of Georgia. And we, without a funding mechanism, are endangering the pay of our military personnel. And we're also tying their hands so that we can't really replenish our military with what they need weapons-wise to replenish what has been supplied to Ukraine and what we are going to and in the process of giving to Israel and its defense. So those are real challenges that we have, and that needed to be addressed. And we are 3 weeks further behind in doing that, already having been delinquent because of the dysfunction of the Republican conference not being able to get the people's business done.
So now
as of yesterday, the House did select a speaker. And today we started back with the people's business. We passed a resolution in support of Israel, and the House is now debating one of the 12 appropriations bills, the Energy and Water Bill, which is necessary for us to be able to get our fiscal house in order going forward for the fiscal year 24. Unfortunately, we got into a point where the House became dysfunctional and unable to pass the spending bill, which should have been eliminated because when we did the debt ceiling deal with the president and the Congress passing into law a bill that would allow the American government to pay its bills, and also included a top-line spending going forward for the FY24 year. Within a week of that, the Republican Civil War forced the Speaker to renege on the deal that was signed into law. So our appropriations process stopped, and with that process stopping, it also hindered the development of the Farm Bill, which of course depends upon funding that will come out of the appropriations process. That just put us in a very, very bad position. And of course, now that we have a speaker, we can move forward and do the best that we can to try to address that. But I expect that we will continue to have problems because when the previous speaker, McCarthy, was seeking to get the gavel at the beginning of this Congress, he made concessions and gave up authority through rules and through side deals that really emasculated his capacity to run the House. As a consequence, one of the rules that was put in place would allow one member of the Republican conference to make a motion to vacate the chair so that they could take down the speaker. And he gave up that power, and that is what was his undoing and what became the undoing of the House and what made the House become even more chaotic and dysfunctional. So that is still in place. And of course, the current speaker, the new speaker, Wayne Johnson, will have to have that over his head as he attempts to run the House and the speaker. But what Democrats have always wanted to do is we've wanted to have a bipartisan path forward. Obviously, Democrats and Republicans disagree on the way to address the challenges that face our country. But the founding fathers established it in such a way that we have to come to a consensus. And of course, while we may disagree, the challenges that we face are not Democratic challenges or Republican challenges, they are American challenges, and they require a bipartisan solution. When the Civil War within the Republican conference erupted, and they could not agree, they have a rule that they will not bring anything to the floor unless it has a majority of Republican votes. And of course, the House is both Democrat and Republican, and there's a narrow division of only 5 votes. And the House should be allowed to work its will so that a majority of votes of Democrats and Republicans and independents controls the day. And of course, that would require some compromise. They've been unwilling to compromise, and that has put us in the predicament that we were in, being dysfunctional, which is very, very risky at a time when we're faced with such significant challenges. We've got, as I said, the war in Israel and Gaza, the war in Ukraine, the Farm Bill, and operating the government with a funding bill, an appropriations bill.
Well, we'll be watching closely over the next few weeks on that. Second question for you, pivoting a little bit. We just had some breaking news in the last hour where a judge has said Georgia's congressional and legislative districts are discriminatory and they have to be redrawn. What is your reaction in response to that ruling?
Well, that ruling was made based upon the court's interpretation of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. I'm happy that the Voting Rights Act is being properly interpreted. I do believe that every segment of our country and every segment in Georgia should have the right to the reasonable opportunity to elect a member of Congress of their choice. And of course, the court determined that that was a violation, that it was racial gerrymandering. To prevent that, and now the legislature is being directed to correct it. So hopefully that will happen. The illustrative map that was put forward during the course of the litigation by the plaintiffs centered around the metro Atlanta area, where they indicated that a majority district could be constructed and should have reasonably been constructed by the legislature. And now they're being instructed to do that. So hopefully it will happen in short order. I think our local delegation will probably have a briefing from the lawyers on what to expect. But we do expect that the General Assembly will be called as a special session to address it because the court indicated that it needed a map by December the 8th. So that means that the legislature will probably be called into session by the governor to address the directive of the federal court, which will then hopefully respond by drawing a map that complies with the requirements of the Voting Rights Act.
All right. One final question for you. Obviously, the breaking news last night with the mass shooting in Maine. Just your response to that and your reaction when you heard the news.
I was deeply saddened, and we in Congress, for the first time in 30 years, last Congress passed a bill that would make our streets safer, with background checks, with mental health funding, to try to address it. But there's too much gun violence, and it continues over and over and over again. And this is yet another example of it. My heart goes out, and my prayers and thoughts are with the victims of this shooting. I hope that the perpetrator is apprehended, so that no one else will be hurt. But I do think that it's important for us to have strong gun safety laws that are enforced to keep guns out of the hands of people who are irresponsible and who are not able to handle it. I've been a strong supporter of the Second Amendment, but it has to be tempered with reasonable gun safety laws, background checks, and the like, to make sure that people who do have guns are able to have them and to possess them and to utilize them in a way that is not detrimental to the public.
I lied. I have one more question for you, and then we'll cut you loose. Your colleague on the other side of the building, Senator Ossoff, was part of a Senate hearing yesterday on Georgia's foster care system. They heard some really concerning testimony about it. Have you been briefed on that? Do you have any information on that? And what's your reaction, if so?
Well, I've been made aware of it through the media, and of course the foster care system has had challenges over the years, in Georgia and across the country. So I'm happy that my colleague is drawing attention to it, and hopefully we can put in place policies that will right those wrongs that have been uncovered. So let's hope going forward, as a result of the hearings and the information, that we can move forthwith in developing policies that will address that situation.